On the surface, it was a funny interaction between a Collingwood fan and West Coast player Harvey Johnston. As Johnston slowed his momentum coming towards the fence, he was softly grabbed on the head by the man and giving a cheering pat on the back. The people around him got a giggle out of it, but a few days later, a severe punishment was handed out. As harmless as the incident was, you simply can't touch any players as a fan. The incident led to smiles, but imagine in a close game with a player with a temper or a fan who was intoxicated, or both, what a touch on the head could lead to. We would never want a malice in the palace to occur in the AFL, and the league did not hold back, giving the man a 12-month ban from attending games with 6 months suspended. Collingwood also removed his access to games as a member. The AFL said, while we acknowledge the innocuous nature in which the incident played out on the day, these types of interactions should not happen. Grabbing a player from over the fence could have potentially escalated if it wasn't for the professional manner in which Eagles player Harvey Johnston responded. However, it is not all bad for the culprit, who will be able to come back to games next season and purchase a Collingwood membership. I'm sure it's a mistake he will forever learn from. While we haven't really had any crazy incidents between fans and players, there still has been a few along the AFL and VFL's history. We have to start with Collingwood reserve player John Burke. It's the closest thing we have gotten at the professional level of a fight between player and fan. In a 1985 reserves game against South Melbourne, the ruckman was having a frustrating game. After being reported by umpire Phil Wright earlier in the game for kicking Sydney's ruckman, Burke lashed out in a moment of frustration.
I thought, actually, when I was... Oh, he just whacked the umpire. Hey!
Oh, no!
That's unbelievable.
Oh, boy. Well, this is sensational. The umpire has gone down. Now, there are a number of others coming up to talk to him. Surely we've got to get the Collingwood runner out here and get him off the ground for a spell.
Oh, he whacked
he wants to be very careful because...
I'd take him off now.
Well, he's got him.
I think you've got to take the boy off.
Very smart.
Definitely. You've got to take the boy off.
In the clip, he pushed another umpire, but it's the commentary that makes the serious incident just hilarious. Burke picked a bad day for the outburst because, believe it or not, the game was broadcasted on Channel 7. However, there is a second part. While jogging off from the ground, a spectator watching yelled some expletives along the lines of, "This will be your last game," and again, Burke went nuts.
I've never seen that.
No? Well...
Yeah, I've been around footy scenes for a long time.
And we invite you on the Army Reserve Cup and look what's happened.
It has to be complete frustration, I would say, and...
Well... you just...
Oh,
he's going to punch the fellow out the
someone
fence
in the
now.
stand. He's into someone in the stand.
Oh, he's giving one too.
Yep.
Yeah, he's done well. Oh,
At a 4-hour-long tribunal marathon, he pleaded not guilty to kicking the umpire, but he still ended up with a monster 10-year ban. It later got dropped to 6 years, but it was a minute of madness with a lasting effect. Years later, Burke spoke about the impact that incident had on his life.
I've heard it many, many times. You've got to get the boy off. I mean, I'll still hear that, in a joking sort of thing, no matter, even when I was playing, and people would say, "Oh, you got to get the boy off." And I just think sometimes, look, it's 16 years ago. How long do you want? How long do I have to pay for it? I was suspended from 22 to 28 years of age, so it's 6 years of my prime football career. So I think that was probably enough.
In a pretty non-eventful round 6 game in 2018 between Essendon and Melbourne, an aggressive fan made the headlines. It was a frustrating day for Essendon, who ended up losing by 36 points, and clearly this fan felt that more than anyone else.
This for his second for the quarter, and to answer the goal from Stringer. Oh, no problem at all. Big Maxi has got 2. And he steadies the Melbourne ship.
Oh, yeah, he was right in his face, wasn't he? Look at that.
What was wrong with something?
Well, that sort of vitriol, I'd like to see.
Looking at it side by side the recent Collingwood fan incident, this one looks worse. He was right up in Gawn's face and was extremely aggressive. Again, the man is lucky the player he yelled at didn't have a poor temper, because it really could have boiled over. To rub in the embarrassment that was going to come to the fan not long after the final siren, Gawn slotted the goal from the boundary and looked directly at the Essendon fan. The supporter was lucky that he got away scot-free. He received no ban or warning from the AFL. However, Essendon did issue the member a first and final warning that any poor behaviour in the future would lead to a further punishment in his membership being revoked. It also helped his cause that Gawn didn't seem too fazed by it and moved on quickly. There was just noise, and probably a few words that weren't suitable for the 1:10 PM time slot, Gawn said. It was more the demeanour of hanging over the fence that caught my attention. To be honest, it was water off a duck's back. Nothing really offended me, but there was a fair bit of noise going on. A much more friendly interaction was initiated by a player. It was a long Easter week for James Hird back in 2004. His comments against umpire Scott McLaren, in which he labelled him a disgrace, got him in big trouble. A phone call to AFL boss Andrew Demetriou suddenly made Hird realise the situation he was in. It looked like he might be heading towards a possible ban for a month of the season. He ended up receiving a huge $20,000 fine. Now, in that round 3 game against West Coast, Essendon roared ahead and were leading by as much as 48 points. But the Eagles fought back, and there was a kick in it for most of the final quarter. In a ridiculous performance, Hird had 15 disposals, 6 clearances and 2 massive goals, all in the last term. The last of those 2 goals led to this fan and player moment.
McDougall heads for the boundary line. Maybe Murphy should have kicked. Bullen. Hurd! Hurd! The fairy tale's complete after a whole week. James Hird, you are a genius.
I think from the interaction, it shows a huge amount of relief for Hird, who was under the pump for the entire week leading up to the game. I instantly thought, we've won the game. I was running towards the boundary and was so excited that when I saw the bloke on the edge of the crowd, I just hugged him. God knows why I hugged him. I suppose it was like a pressure valve being released. Out poured the emotion, Hird said. The fan was Drew Wilson, who later on said it was the biggest shock of his life. Essendon went on to win the game 137-131. Interestingly enough, Hird's 34 disposals and 3 goals were not enough to get him a single vote on Brownlow night and sparked a conspiracy that perhaps the umpires got some revenge on Hird. Still, the game will be forever remembered for that hug.